Welcome to the Rusted Garden Homestead. I'm here with my good friend now. I'd say it's been about 10 years from Callie Kim.
Hi everyone.
DIY. Jerry is behind the camera. Today we're going to talk about blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, maybe strawberries. But we want to just give you tips on growing those in your garden. I want to start with the blackberries. I'm sorry, with the blueberries.
These look beautiful.
They're nice and plump, and the whole thing with blueberries is you want to plant a couple different varieties. It helps with the kind of the cross-pollination, helps the blueberries just get bigger and beautiful, just like
those
that.
are gorgeous.
So
I've never actually grown blueberries before, so this is fun.
Now, I don't know. Can you grow them in California?
You can.
They're fine? Okay.
Yeah,
some of the fruit crops need a cold period, so I'm not sure if blueberries need that or not. But you can grow them through most of the United States.
So I gotta try one.
Yeah, have as many as you want. They also like more acidic soil, but you don't have to over worry about that. My soil in here is closer to a 7 pH. When I planted these, I just put them right into the ground. I give them a water-soluble fertilizer that's a little more acidic. You could put some sulfur down, but I only do that once a year. They're gonna grow in a wide range, but a little bit of acidity helps. And you can look, if you look all the way down, I probably have 16 different blueberry plants growing through here. The ones down there are the biggest. They went in when we first got here 4 years ago, and then I started adding these in. But they're just absolutely beautiful.
Oh my gosh, they're beautiful. And these are like perfectly ripe. They're just pulling very easily off the bush here. They're gorgeous.
Cool.
Now, do you make like blueberry pies or anything, or any jam?
I make pies, donuts, cookies. No, I'm just kidding. No, I just
blueberry donuts. That's a good one.
I want to find really, friends that want to can, preserve, and do all that kind of stuff. I'm learning how to do that, but we eat them really fresh. Now, luckily, there are varieties of birds, these are really ripe down here too, that will come and eat these. I'm not having that problem, which is,
nice.
I'm glad, because I don't want to have to put bird netting down and stuff like that.
The cool thing is though too, you can just throw these in a freezer bag and just freeze them whole. So it's really not a big problem if you can't eat them all fresh. You can just pop them in the freezer for later.
Right. And we do make lots of smoothies too.
Nice.
Now these are beautiful. These are nice.
Gosh, those are really plump.
Yeah.
Look at the color on these. Jerry, get a shot of this.
Looking for. It's something about that size.
Really pretty.
And you can see the transition, green to kind of that red color, and then to the plump size, just like
nice
this.
Comparison there with the dark ones and the.
And fertilizing, I just use a basic, any organic fertilizer. I always say just get what's on sale, scattered around at the end of the season, actually in the fall, let it break down a little bit in the spring, and then that water soluble with some acidity in the spring, and I just let them go.
That's the nice thing about berries is they're not like super high maintenance or anything. As long as you have the space for them, you've got plenty of space here.
Yeah, and when you're planting, and I actually have them pretty close together. Like these will get as big as me and really wide, so you can space them out if you want, but I just like growing like this. I like to put stuff more closely together. So there are blueberries that produce early, mid, and late, which is true for a lot of fruits. So also mix that in there, because like this plant is just getting going. They're all green. When these are done, these will start producing. Now, don't ask me the varieties. I cannot remember the names, but just get a mix.
I do believe there are varieties too that don't need as many chill hours. So if you're in a southern climate, ask at your local garden center. I love the local, like family-owned garden centers because they tend to know a little bit more about, plants that will really do well in your area.
Yeah, if you do right, go to the nurseries
beautiful.
and places.
Yeah.
And ask them, hey, what thrives most in my area? They'll let you know. But just tons of them.
I love the colors on here, just the different, types of stages of ripeness.
Now last year, you and Jerry came down in, I think, the later part of June. So the blueberries and all the berries were gone.
Yeah.
So this is a good time to be down here. And we can kind of just progress down this way, and we're going to go to the blackberry. So there are blackberries behind you. There are blackberries through here.
Wow.
And the whole key for blackberries, because at the end we're going to go over to another raspberry area, or another fruit area, my raspberries.
It's not quite ready.
Are just out of control. Yeah, so the ones right up here are ready.
Now I've got blackberries just getting ripe now. This is actually the earliest I've had blackberries before. Yeah. So you get them a whole lot earlier than I do. Do you prune these back in the wintertime?
No.
No?
So, yeah, before I distracted myself, I was going to say, these are clumping variety blackberries, or erect variety. These may be Arapaho, I'm not sure. But you want a variety that stays contained. These have all been down in this lower section about 8 foot since I moved here 4 years ago. And new green canes will come up right now. They're not going to produce fruit. They'll produce fruit next year. The canes that are producing the fruit now are all going to die off, so I remove those. But I don't have to do a lot of pruning except for the dead wood year after year.
Yeah, that's what I do too. I just prune off the dead wood and then let the new shoots and the new growth come out.
Yep.
But you can see a lot of these that are the dark purple color will pull really easily from the vine, and that's how you know they're ready. Like this one's still a little bit tight. We'll leave that one a little bit longer. But the blackberries in our garden is probably one of the favorite things that we grow.
And I also
So
scatter
delicious.
these throughout my property. So like when you walk along the fence line, there's blackberries everywhere. And again, it's the clumping variety that you want to look for. These are also thornless. You just don't want runners. Well, when we go over to the raspberries, I'll show you that. They're growing under my decking over there. They're just all over the place. It's just, it's a mess.
Yeah, it's perfectly okay to trim those off. They can get out of control really, really fast.
Now, Jerry, to your left are more blackberries that I'm training up the cattle panel. I used to have cherry tomatoes there.
Oh, yeah.
So I have cherry tomatoes on here. I have the blackberries. Now, they did move over to here. I don't know if they seeded themselves or maybe just one root kind of got over here, but I'm going to leave this on here because I think it's really cool.
Very pretty. So instead of the tomato tunnel this year, you have the blackberry tunnel. And well, there's some tomatoes over here as well, but.
Blackberry tunnel's here, and then we've got tomatoes too. We'll show that in another video. But I was growing 8 different tomato varieties, and it was just too much in here. They were just cherry tomatoes on the ground.
Try one.
Yeah, they're good. Sometimes
so
they're
good.
tart, sometimes they're really sweet. If they're a little bit tart, just give them another day, another 48 hours, and they'll be delicious. Well, first thing, these are alpine strawberries.
Oh.
I hate them.
You hate
They're
them?
mushy. They don't produce as well as I thought. I mean, they were fun growing indoors, but I don't like them.
They're a lot smaller too.
Yeah,
huh?
I mean, they'd be good for smoothies or something.
Okay.
So right down here are some of the end of the June bearing strawberries. So strawberries, you have June bearing, which may be the month of June in your area, but it just means they produce once and then they kind of do their thing. And maybe a second time towards the end of the season. But you also have everbearing, which will keep going. So I have these potted up in 5 towers. I have different varieties in here, but we can take that one off.
And this one, you know they're ripe when at the top here, there's like not a white spot. So it's, you know, totally red, pulls right off.
I didn't know
It's
that.
absolutely delicious. It makes it a lot sweeter that way.
Yeah, so the strawberries have come and gone except for what's kind of left now.
Mine are just starting to produce. It's
They're just-
crazy.
it's so weird. I always think California is ahead of us, so I don't know.
Well, just because I don't get sunlight in my garden until like May or June as much, so it's a little bit slower that
Yeah,
way.
Try that and tell me if
But
it's
it's good to
terrible.
have the June bearing, the everbearing, and the day neutral, so that you can spread your harvest out throughout the season. You always have berries coming on. Oh, it's really mushy.
Yeah.
There's like no flavor to it.
No. So
Yeah, I would agree with
it's
you
a
on that one.
disappointment. So over here is a tower. I just want to show you too. Strawberry plants can be expensive when you're buying them. So first of all, they're good to overwinter. I'm in Maryland Zone 7. We get freezing soil. These do perfectly fine staying in here, and just about, 80% of them come back. There's some strawberries right in there we can get.
Oh, cool.
But they get massive, and they're going to send out these runners, and this is how you can save money. This is going to be a strawberry plant. You just press this right into any soil, and it's going to root out. So you can spend your money, maybe just buy 6 plants for the top tier for the first year, and they're going to just send out all kinds of different runners where you can just propagate going down. It's less expensive, and your strawberry plants love to do that.
You can even hold it in the soil if they tend to pop out with like a bobby pin or a landscape staple. I've done that before too. I have the strawberry crate towers, and you can put them in the sides there where the little holes in the towers, and then just attach them with a bobby pin or landscape staple, and they do just fine to root out.
And you can see, if you can get in close right here, you can see the roots starting to come
Nice,
out.
right there.
You can even put a stone on there and just leave it
Yeah.
pressed to the ground. But it's a great way to kind of propagate the strawberries. Let's grab these right here.
Yeah. Have a little berry bowl for breakfast, huh?
Yeah, they're not quite right, but we're going to take them now just to make the bowl look nice. So this is what you were saying. This is still white up here, so that wasn't quite ready.
Will be quite as sweet.
That one I just pulled the top off, so it's close.
Yeah. Looks so pretty, all the colors in the bowl.
All right, let's go to the raspberries that are out of control. Concord grapes. So this is a half of a whiskey barrel, maybe 30 gallons. This has been in here for 4 years too. And it's just loaded right now with
Look at these grapes.
green grapes, but they will turn purple. These do have seeds, but you can grow them in a large container.
We've had a lot of trouble with grapes. We've never had a big success. I don't know if it's because it gets too hot or if the birds and the squirrels just
Get to them.
before they actually fully develop. But I love the green of the grapevine. I think it's absolutely beautiful. One of these years we'll get some.
Now the fertilizing, let me just talk about the blackberries. The blackberries were the erect canes. End of fall, beginning of spring, any organic granular fertilizer I throw down at the base, and then I give them a big drink of water-soluble fertilizer, fish emulsion, whatever you want to use in the spring. And I do the same thing for the strawberries with respect to the water-soluble fertilizer. Whenever I'm, growing into towers, they'll get water-soluble fertilizer spring, and sometimes I will dump out the whole container if it's been 3 years, refresh it with some organic fertilizer.
Yeah, I pretty much do the same thing.
But water-soluble fertilizer is your friend. You want to give these, a little bit more than they need, especially grapes in containers because they will suck the life out of the soil.
Yeah, it really helps them take off, especially after I harvest, or if I do like a heavy pruning, I get a lot of dry leaves on the berries. I'll go through and give them the water soluble and they'll really perk up and start producing again.
Now, I do not know how to prune grapevines. So this is just chaos pruning, but even with limited skill, I just cut back some stuff. They do pretty well.
Yeah, mine I hard prune back like January or so, just take everything off, and then they really take off. But you have a lot more grapes than I do, so maybe you're doing it, maybe you know something I don't.
No, just kind of let nature do its thing.
Yeah, I like the chaos pruning concept.
Yeah, it works. All right, let's go inside. We'll get to the raspberries. I have raspberries, strawberries on the inside, some blackberries down there too.
Nice.
But I want to show you the raspberries over here because they ran into a problem.
Ooh.
They look okay now.
I love how they look on the white fence. It's really pretty.
Yeah, so these are all good. So these are your standard raspberries. Again, I can't tell you the name, but when they're this nice dark color, this is when you want to pick them. And they're just going to readily just pop right off of the raspberry plant.
See how easy they pull here?
And I like just weaving them through the fence. Now,
Beautiful.
our water from the house was draining into here and a pipe was broken. So this ground was staying way, way too wet. They can handle moisture and all that, but this whole space was raspberry plants originally, and everything what you're standing on behind you died off because it was just too wet.
Wow.
These guys survived, and once we got that pipe fixed, look at the plants. So this is
beautiful.
This is first year cane. So they're not going to produce this year, but they will produce next year. And what we're picking off of was from last year.
These have little tiny thorns on them.
Yeah, and if you can, you want to get thornless or small thorns because we're going to go over to the mess of the garden in a second. And these are delicious. These are just your standard kind of raspberries. You just don't want them to be in a super standing water swampy area.
So good.
They're just not going to do well.
These are very sweet.
Yeah, we'll just actually
pick
everything.
I just have to pop in here real quick. It's raining and it's continuing to rain and we're filming and it's so much fun. It's nice. It's a nice light mist. I was telling Gary, this would be like a winter's day in January in California if we actually got rain. So I'm loving it.
It's been raining since 8 o'clock yesterday evening. And this is pretty standard here. So right in here, I'm using strawberries as ground cover. These were June bearing. They've all been picked. You can see a couple blueberries bushes planted in there too. So you can mix your berries, your fruit bushes, your canes in different parts of your garden. You don't need a formal space. You can really just tuck them in anywhere.
And these again will send out runners and then you can just poke them in the soil. So that's one reason why they spread so well is because they'll produce a lot of free plants with the runners.
And the blueberries here are struggling a little bit too. They need a little more acidity than I've actually been giving them. So these are 3 years old. You can see they're not as big, but they're also a low bush variety, so they don't get really big, if I said that right. But they're a variety that just are good for like pollinators and stuff like that. So we can go into here to the mess. Is
this like your kitchen garden area?
Yeah, so this is pretty good. This is herbs and peppers and stuff like that.
Looks great.
So we'll go stand in here. Well, let's grab these first.
Oh my gosh.
Let's wait for the plane. So I set these up 4 years ago. And they do send out runners, they're not so bad. So you really want to make sure you get raspberry plants that sort of stay clumped. These have thorns, not as bad as some of them. This is actually a goji berry mixed in there, which was a mistake too, but that's for another video. But these are black raspberries, and you can tell, obviously they're ready. I mean, look at the ones you have in your hand.
And different variety than the other ones, because they're much darker in color.
But they're just delicious.
Oh my gosh.
And they're worth having it. They're worth having in your garden. I just have to find a better place for these. So this area, a little bit overgrown, but the production is great and I like it. And
tons of them.
You know, I mean,
tons of them.
We're gonna pick, you know, probably a couple hundred raspberries out of here. So there's mixed varieties in here. Over here to my left is the mess. So these are all raspberries. They're very sharp. I planted them right in here. They have now kind of sprawled and the runners went out under my deck. I have to get in there, move them out.
Oh,
I cut these back in spring, so this is all new growth. This is basically going to take over this entire space. So they don't belong here, so it's going to be a mess. And I do recommend if you're putting in canes, especially raspberries, make sure they can run or you're getting a variety that stays contained more. And again, I wish I could tell you the variety, but I don't know what these are, except they produce extremely well.
I've been standing here picking while you're talking and getting this big bowl of berries. Some like purple fingers, huh?
Yeah, but you want black raspberries, you know, any kind of variety is going to do really well. And then finally, as I said, this is a mess that they're actually clawing into my jeans. There we go.
This is a mess.
Here's another mess that I don't recommend. I put blackberries into this metal bed. And they're a different variety. They are clumping.
Oh no, Jerry's getting attacked by the thorns.
I told you, you can stay there. We'll get the heck out of here.
I'm wearing sandals.
But more blackberries in here. So don't put all these canes in a small space because it's not worth it. But we will pull all the black raspberries out of here. But there's just so many black raspberries.
Gosh. These are amazing. You can just wander around and get breakfast, lunch, and dinner from the garden here.
So I wanted to talk a little bit more about fertilizing the blackberries and the blueberries. So I use any organic granular fertilizer. That's a slow release. And I just take a big handful, to be honest with you, and I would just scatter it around the base of the plant, and it might be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8 handfuls scattered all around here. I'll do that in the fall for the blackberries, and I'll do that again in the spring, and I'll just let that work its way into the soil. Same thing for the blueberries. It'd be a scattering of the organic granular at the same time, but because they do like the more acidic soil, that's when I might use a water-soluble that has acidity. And if you look online, you can check out Amazon, check out my Amazon shop. You can look for acidic water-soluble fertilizers. The water-soluble fertilizer is immediately available to the plant, so it's going to give it N, P, and K right away. So I like giving all the plants that we talked about today that water-soluble fertilizer in the spring to kind of really get them going. But the only ones that get the acidic fertilizer, I want to be clear, are the blueberry plants, and they'll love you for it if you give them just a little drink of that.
And I just wanted to mention too that if you don't have a ton of space like Gary has here, you can definitely grow berries in containers. I grow berries in crate towers, in just smart pots, and the root pouches like you have, Gary. And you just want to make sure you refresh the soil every season, add some granular fertilizer like you were talking about, the water soluble, and you'll really see them take off. But we've got a really nice bowl of berries here.
We do. Keep them fed, they'll keep you happy.
Exactly, and now we're happy because we've got a nice big bowl of berries. Thanks so much for watching. See you on the next video.